What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Overwatch Weekly. I know I didn't upload anything Monday or Sunday. I'm sorry about that. I meant to, and I just didn't get around to it. But this week for Overwatch Weekly, I do have quite a few stories. I have 6 stories to talk about. So hopefully that makes up for that. Some of them are pretty short, but we're going to jump right into it with the first thing, which is that Symmetra, the rework that Symmetra received, is now usable in competitive as of yesterday. So if you've wanted to use the new Symmetra in competitive and haven't been able to because she wasn't usable at all, now you can use her. So have fun with that if you are a Symmetra main. But we also have another thing to talk about, which is the PTR patch notes. So last week, they gave us a patch. It was on Thursday of last week. So some of the things in there are things I talked about last week with Sombra, but I'll go over those again. Sombra's EMP now disables Wrecking Ball's minefield proximity mines for 10 seconds. Sombra's hack has a little change. You can now cancel her reload to use hack. So if you're in the middle of a reload and someone's coming at you and you need to hack them, you can change so you can hack them instead of reload. Her stealth detect radius was reduced to 2 meters from 4 meters. If you know, originally it was at 2 meters, and they moved it to 4 meters when they gave her the infinite invisibility. Then they bumped it back down to 2 meters. And her translocator can now be destroyed with the interact key without looking at it, which defaults to F, the interact key. And the sound cue heard by enemies is dramatically reduced. So those are the changes to Sombra. The only other change in there is Wrecking Ball had a change to his grappling claw, where the movement speed was reduced from 22 meters per second to 20 meters per second. I don't know why 22 was the number they had, but it was. Still no cosmetics yet, as of me recording this video, for Wrecking Ball, so we will get them eventually, but nothing yet. The only other things in this BTR patch are some bug fixes, 1 to Tracer and 2 to Wrecking Ball, so it's a pretty small PTR patch, but if you want to check out everything, it is linked in the description as always. But let's move on to the next story, which is something undocumented on the PTR, and it is that Hanzo's Dragon Strike, his ultimate, is no longer buffed by Mercy's damage boost. Now, I wanted to talk about this, and I wanted to bring this up, because I was watching a video by Stylosa, which is how I learned about it. I will link to that video in the description, because I do want to talk about that. Sorry if you can hear someone walking upstairs. And in it, he was talking about how Hanzo's ultimate is the only ultimate that is a ranged ultimate that doesn't get boosted now, while entity summoning ultimates like Junkrat's Riptire already didn't, right? So everyone that was a projectile attack got boosted, but anything that like created a new entity like Junkrat's Riptire didn't get boosted. And that to me was an interesting way to put it, because I think you can make a case that Dragon Strike is summoning another entity, therefore it doesn't make sense that it would be damage boosted. And I was trying to do a little bit of research to find out how true this is, because I wanted to see if Zarya's Graviton Surge is boosted by Mercy's power up or boosting spray. That's what it is. And I could not find anything to say either way, and I did not test it on my own. I haven't had the time to try to test it on my own, but I did try to find it. But I don't think Graviton Surge gets damage boosted by Mercy, because it does do damage. It doesn't just pull targets in, it does do damage. And to me, Graviton Surge is summoning a new entity in a very similar way to Dragon Strike. So I think there's a case there to be made that Dragon Strike is summoning a new entity. When I think of a projectile ultimate, or a typical kind of ultimate, I'm thinking of your Reaper, your McCree, your Soldier 76, where you have complete control over how it's happening, right? Yes, with Reaper you kind of can't really move, and same with Pharah, you can't really move, but with Reapers you can jump up and down to control where it's going. With Pharah you can move around. You know, you can't leave the spot you're in, but you can turn and whatnot, and you can aim it in that way. So those you have complete control over where they are. Hanzo's you don't. Once you shoot it, it's on its own now. It goes where you tell it to go, and that's it. Same goes for the Graviton Surge. Once you've fired that Graviton Surge, you have no more control over it. You have no say anymore in what it does. So I think that's where they're trying to draw the line. If an ultimate, once you've used it, can no longer be influenced by you, I think that is where they're going with saying that that's what makes it a non-boostable ultimate. Maybe not, but that's my take on the matter. I will link that Stylosa video if you want to hear what he says, and there's some other things he talks about in that video as well, if you are interested. The next thing I want to talk about is that there's a new Hanzo statue. Speaking of Hanzo, it is the newest statue in the line of the really nice, high-quality statues that Blizzard makes. So, if you want to spend a lot of money on getting a very nice statue, you have that option. But that is a thing. We're now going to move on to a great story, a fantastic story, a story that makes me super happy, and it has to do with Pink Mercy and Overwatch's connection with the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So they finally have revealed their final tally, the final amount of money that they made. And I will have two links in the description, one to a video that the Overwatch YouTube channel posted, and the other one is just a blog post by Blizzard. But the total amount of money raised by Overwatch and the Overwatch community for Breast Cancer Research Foundation is $12,703,828.87. I didn't need to say the dollars when I did. $12,703,828.87. Wow, that's a lot of money. That is a huge boost to helping out a fantastic cause, helping out something that's really important. And I'm really happy to have contributed to this. I'm very happy that the community and that this game that I love has put all of this towards such a great cause. So applaud yourselves if you spend any money donating to the streams, buying Pink Mercy, buying any of the merchandise, anything like that. Shout out to you. And if you shared, if you supported in any way, even if you didn't spend any money, if you made it known that this was a thing, shout out to you as well, because lives could be saved because of what you did. So enjoy that. We're going to move on now to a less real world influency type of story. We're talking about the World Cup 2018. I mentioned last week that the rosters are starting to get released. Now every single roster has been released for every team. What are those teams? Well, I will name you the teams in alphabetical order. I'm not going to go over every roster, but I will name every team, every country that has a team. So the teams are Australia, Austria, Brazil, Canada, China, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Russia, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Taiwan, Thailand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. So those are all the teams that are in the Overwatch World Cup. The qualifying rounds start in September, and then the finals will be at BlizzCon in November. So stay tuned for that. But I do want to highlight two rosters that I want to talk about, because I think they are the two rosters that people will care about the most. So I'm from the United States, so I want to talk about the United States rosters. So the United States roster consists of 12 players, which is the maximum amount you can have, 9 of which are on Overwatch League teams, 2 of which play for an academy team, one of them plays for a non-Overwatch League-related team. So in the DPS role, you have Dante and Sinatra from the San Francisco Shock, as well as Hydration from the Los Angeles Gladiators, and Zachary from Fusion University, which is the contenders team for Philadelphia Fusion. In the flex role, you have Space for the LA Valiant and McGravy for Team Envy. In the tank role is Super for the San Francisco Shock and Muma for the Houston Outlaws. And in the support role, you have Moth and Sleepy from the San Francisco Shock, Raucus from the Houston Outlaws, and Elk from Fusion University. So a lot of San Francisco Shock representation. As you know, they are a very big American team, as is the Houston Outlaws. So some notable Houston Outlaws people not there. Jake is definitely a big one. But there are some that just decided not to play. But I also think it's a younger team now. There's a lot of really good young talent on this team. Space, Sinatra, Moth, Sleepy are young players. They're all very good. Then you have people like Muma and Raucus, some older players there with some experience. So that will be a fun roster to watch. But I want to highlight the roster that I think most people think is going to be the best roster, and that is the South Korea roster. South Korea won last year. I believe they won in 2016 as well. I'm sure they're going to win again this year. I think they have the best talent. And I think their team this year is actually better than their team last year. So, their team, in the DPS role, they have Sabiobi and Libero from the New York Excelsior, Carpe from the Philadelphia Fusion, and Fleta from the Seoul Dynasty. I want to make note that every single player on South Korea's roster is on an Overwatch League roster. In the flex role is Meko from the New York Excelsior and Fury from the London Spitfire. In the tank role is Fissure from the Los Angeles Gladiators and formerly the London Spitfire, and Fate of the LA Valiant. And at support is Arc, Jay Jonak, and Animo from the New York Excelsior, and Kareev from the LA Valiant. That team is scary. That team is really good. And there's some players that you could argue should have been on the team. You could argue Prophet over Fleta, or even over Libero. But that roster is so scary, and there's players that didn't make it that are good enough to have made it. So those are the World Cup rosters that I'm going to highlight. I will have a link in the description to a page that you can look at every single roster, and it has links to all of the different qualifiers. There's a France qualifier, a South Korea qualifier, a Thailand qualifier, and a United States qualifier. The top two teams from each of those move on. I know the U.S., Thailand, South Korea, France, they're in each of their qualifiers. I don't know who's in with each one, so if you're interested in that, then that is there in the description. But the final thing I want to talk about, tonight, the Overwatch League playoffs start. Philadelphia Fusion versus Boston Uprising, Game 1, and the London Spitfire taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators, Game 1, tonight. Both of those, I believe it's 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific for the first game, and then 10 Eastern for the second game. And then Thursday, tomorrow, will be Philadelphia versus Boston, Game 2, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And if necessary, a Game 3, that will be following that at 10 p.m. But there's no guarantee that game will happen. Same goes for Friday, for London and the LA Gladiators. They will play their final game or games on Friday, 8 and 10, if that 10 o'clock game is necessary. It's a best-of-3 series, so you have to win 2 games. And in order to win 2 games, you have to win a best-of-5 map set series. You basically have to win 2 regular season games in the playoffs to beat that team. So, Overwatch League playoff schedule will be in the description. Lowest seed who advances plays the New York Excelsior. Highest seed that advances plays the Los Angeles Valiant. That was a lot of stuff to cover, but that is everything that there is to cover. So that is where we're going to end this video off. If you guys enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps out a lot. And if you have any questions you'd like to see me answer in a future Q&A video, leave those in the comments down below. If they're more like time-based, like if it's something like, how do you think the playoff matches tonight are going to go? Well, obviously I can't answer that in a Q&A video, but I'll answer those types of questions in the comments. But if you have a question that you'd want to ask me about pretty much anything, sports, Star Wars, Marvel movies, Game of Thrones, whatever you want to talk about, I'm down to talk about in a Q&A video. I want to start doing the Q&A videos every week, so feel free to leave those in the comments down below. But I'm going to head out, end this video off here. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.